This really could be it right here. Attention, air traffic control. This flock of eagles is heading to New Orleans.
There we go. What's up, everybody? How we doing? Friday night hangout. The Friday before the Super Bowl. It's crazy. This week has been like a month, maybe longer. I've gotten lots of comments from you guys. I know that we're all in the same boat, but we are almost there. Just a couple more sleeps. We made it to Sunday. Make sure to come hang out. Thomas and I are going to have the Sunday Super Bowl stream. We're going to be starting an hour before, by the way, too. I think we've mentioned that a couple times, but just as a reminder. But the fact that we are super, super close to taking on the Chiefs, maybe a little payback. May the best team win. But I'm pretty confident. Feeling all right about the game. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We're going to get into all the news and everything else, of course. But let me, real quick, as always, the official sponsor of the channel for the big game, Underdog. Appreciate them. Scan the QR code. If you've not tried out Underdog yet, you should. If you are playing Underdog, that's great because you've still got a promo. But if you haven't, scan the QR code. Use code Philly Special. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. They have a no-sweat play for this weekend for the big game. And it's only $15, but it's literally $15. You could do as big of a parlay as you want. And if you win big there, then you get the money. If you don't, they give you the money back in bonus cash. So it's a no-sweat pick. I mean, I figure you just go for broke and pick as many things as possible. So I've got a 7-pick, $15 wins $1,300. It's crazy. It probably won't happen, but I do have that. There will be a link down in the description for people watching this back on delay, and I'll mention it otherwise. There's a different pick, though, I will say, because I always share this. Picks and plays for the game. A little bit more precise, calculated, I guess we would call it that, but I'm going with so far, and I'll probably have multiple, but I'm going with Dallas Goedert over 52.5 receiving yards. Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions. Chris Jones, you do have to pick an opposing player of the other team. So just for, people that don't know that. Chris Jones to have a sack. He's had, 5 sacks, I think, in the last 4 games against the Eagles. We've seen some of those there, so we'll take a Chris Jones sack because every once in a while, Jalen holds onto the ball a little bit too long. So we'll take Chris Jones. And then Jalen to have the longest completion of the game. It's basically, do you think it's Jalen or do you think it's Mahomes? I feel like it'll be Jalen. The Chiefs have only had 4 plays of over 40 yards this year, so not a whole lot of big plays. We saw what Jalen did in the last Super Bowl, people doubting him, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Somebody just throw a deep completion there. I feel like he can beat Mahomes. So there's the 4 plays. You take those, a 10x multiplier as you see. And again, use code Philly Special. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Good luck to you. Feel free to let me know what you think about those picks. I am curious as well what you guys think. But we will have Anthony joining us here in a bit. Make sure that he's free and good to go. But whenever covering all the latest news and everything else, but jumping into others. Ty, the 7-pick, I'll share it. I'll share it here. I'll share it in the video tomorrow. I'll have a link down in the description. I know people are asking the $15 for $1,300. Yes, it will be in there. But I'm curious, what's the one that misses? If you're going to pick, which is the one out of these plays that doesn't hit? By the way, also, because I said shout out to the sponsor, they're the reason that we can make these things happen. The giveaway is going to happen a little bit later. It'll be the signed Jalen Hurts jersey. Yes. I did not forget about that. People saying, Joel, dude, I appreciate that. Says, love the channel, following from LA. Go Birds. Go Birds, baby. Man, we are almost there. Mario entered the giveaway. You just have to be on the live stream here. That's basically all it was. I said on the last video, if we got over 4,000 likes, and I think it's like 6,000 if I'm not mistaken, so just blew it out of the water. But yeah, it'll be for people on the live stream. We'll just do it a little bit later. So, as soon as, let's see, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not missing it here. But as soon as Mr. DeBona himself shows up, then he'll be joining. Let me text to make sure. In the meantime, I will get to the injury report and news. What was I saying? Oh, Devontae Smith is the easy play. Hopefully, Chris. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I know. But again, you have to pick someone else. So I'm curious if you got to take someone, right? Do you just take someone else? Yeah, a lot of Chris Jones, Smitty. There's actually a couple that are saying Smitty. So that's all right. I can appreciate it. Deep Crow with a 5 bomb. Appreciate that. Says Baldy just dropped some awful KC run defensive clips. Feeling really good about Saquon. Baldy's been making some great points. Boots. Yes. It's just kind of funny how many people, and the Chiefs have done this just like everybody else, but how many people are saying the Eagles are not going to be able to run the football because of the Chiefs. But they say that every single game. And I know the Chiefs, we talked about this as well. The Chiefs are not the Commanders. But at the same time, it's like, I cannot. I don't know. It's like they don't realize what's happening. They don't understand the fact that the teams have said this over and over and over again, and they still don't stop it. So inside zone in particular, I mean, if you look at the breakdowns, I'm sure that Baldy got into it very well, but I haven't seen it yet. But if you look at inside zone, especially, the Chiefs have really struggled. They've given up a ton of just chunk plays or runs or yards. They're not like explosive. They're not your 60-yard runs. But they're still like, okay, hey, there's a first down, or there's 6 or 7 yards, there's 6 or 7 yards. And if the Eagles can do that, then you kind of have a little bit of a not having, we didn't have really a run game in 57, but you'd have the sense of like long drives, sustained drives, keep the defense off the field, rested, and then you just, hope and pray. And I think we all assume we're going to have a better defense than we did for 57. So I'm feeling confident, yes, but I'm going to have to check that out. So I appreciate the heads up for Baldy. Yeah, I think people officially confirmed for the question about Nakobe Dean. But yes, Nakobe Dean is not playing. Unfortunately, dude will be out for, I mean, with his knee, he might be out until, what did Pat say? Next year, week 10. Who knows? I mean, some people are very optimistic, going like, oh, maybe he could play by the opener. That seems a really far-fetched. We'll see. I did get a comment, too. Yeah, Jake, appreciate that. Congrats on the plaque. Well-deserved. Thank you. I've not gotten a place to put it up yet, but we did get it. So it's a lot smaller. Shrinkflation is real, as I've been told, and as I've now witnessed. They used to be a little bit bigger, but it's still cool. Seriously, I'm joking about it, but like it's unreal to have the plaque and the 100,000 subs. I don't think that I ever thought it was possible. So to you guys, you made it happen. Absolutely nuts. And one of the many, many reasons for doing the giveaways, the give back, everything else for the community and what this channel has become. So thank you guys. I would say like the one of the super exciting parts, because we lived through it the entire year, is like we have a history, we have a story of being there in the games and streaming during the games. So that's what I'm pumped up as well. Like let's win this thing, but we've been on this ride together. Sunday's gonna be nuts. But I will also move over too, because I got questions for the injury report. And I'll get to some other comments also. John, appreciate the 5. There we go. Says, so sick of the experts picking against us. Unreal. We will dominate. Fly, Eagles, fly. I agree with you. I do feel the same way. We do get discredited, not picked for. All those others. Let me see if I can find this one clip, because it was funny, and I'm going to include it. It's on the video tomorrow as well, but I might as well. Let's see, make sure I can actually get this to work. There we go. There's what I was wanting to show. So just on Get Up, right? So everyone picked the Chiefs yesterday. Today, everyone picks the Eagles. I don't know what's up with that. I mean, it's good, I guess. I don't know. I prefer to be the underdog, but you're right, John. They're not. I feel like they're picking that just to change the narrative, because they see Thursday all their picks were Chiefs. Like there's one guy, Bart Scott, I think, was the only one who took the Chiefs. But they try to change up the narrative, shift things that way. Before I get into the other one, the 5 here, IBH. Dude, appreciate it. Josh, considering the buffoons I've seen posing as media at the Super Bowl, what would it take to get credentials for you and Thomas? That's a good question. Thomas and I did try to see just the logistics of getting it. I think we were a little bit late. So, I mean, let's run it back next year. We were told, let me just say this. I was told by a pretty good source that if it were to happen again, the odds are very high for Thomas and I to get credentials. So I can't confirm like 100%, but I did talk to someone who has put those in before and gotten credentials, and they said it's a little bit easier than you think if you know who to talk to. So we'll leave it at that. Too late for this year, naturally, but you never know. So it would be cool. It'd be a blast to be there. Muhammad, curse lives on. Hey, let's go. Who was that? John, dropping the 5 for the super chat and the 5 Philly special show memberships. Let's go. And Muhammad was saying, yeah, did not get that. It went to Dejan, Dejan, I hope I said that correctly. Mike, the McGinns, Kyle, and Twisty. Congrats. You guys all got memberships. Let's go. John's a real one for that. John is one of the guys. Actually, John, I think I saw your deal on the Zoom call. We didn't have one. I know that you know that, but you were in San Antonio. I assume that you're back home, but safe travels either way. Yes, I'm sorry. I also see that. When it happens. Yeah. It's just my, it's not even as much skepticism now. It's just superstition. So we all got a little stitious. Shady Luke with a 5. Appreciate that. It says, I went back and watched Mixon and Cook. I think Saquon is going to surprise a lot of doubters. Lots of plays. Kansas City's guys can't shed their blocks. I am right there with you. And Anthony, whenever he joins, he will totally agree. So I talked to, shout out to Cold Ruse, had the interview. How about those Chiefs? Got the big Chiefs channel. He does great work, but we're all jaded in some form or fashion. We're also biased in some form or fashion. So, he's going like, well, yeah, I heard what your comments were about Cook and Mixon and the yards per carry and all this other stuff. But he was like, yeah, but they didn't really focus, right? Like they didn't have guys that we were focused more on shutting the other guys down and not those. So I think there's a little bit of a difference in his mind. But you know what? That's why we're going to play the game, because they're going to get a taste of that and say, okay, you know what? You guys have had maybe not the best run defense, and it's going to be proven. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. We got Anthony, it appears, is trying to join here. So let me get to that one real quick, and then I'll get to injury news and everything else. But the man himself, if I can get this to work. Let's see. He appears to be maybe in the green room. Well, let's try it. Nope, I can't see him. It appeared that he was there, but I could not see him. So we'll try again. That might be my error. In the meantime, K King with a 2 says, after season, will you post, and how long of a layoff? That's a good question. There's really no off season for me, so that it'll be, I mean, maybe a little bit less frequent videos, but it'll be quite a bit of posts. That's what we'll say. There you are. Okay, it just jumped you right in, which is great.
Hey there.
What's up?
How's it going?
It is going well. We got everybody hanging out here. The anxiety, the excitement, the nerves, the confidence. It's just all the emotions, like it's Friday night. It's a week that took a month, and we're getting closer to the Super Bowl. I don't know if I'll sleep on Saturday night, but at least we're getting closer to this point. How are you doing?
Listen, the best plan of action, I think, is to go to sleep at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whenever your kids fall asleep, and just go to sleep earlier, and then you'll be better. You'll wake up. It'll go by a little bit faster. If you stay up late, I know me and you both stay up far too late, and we have that issue, and it's going to feel like the longest 48 hours ever. But just think, it feels like yesterday we were talking about the Eagles drafting Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, and so look how fast time's flown by, and now we're talking about the Eagles playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It's pretty crazy.
It is very crazy. Yeah, someone brought up that comment a second ago, just like the Super Bowl and being there, the fact that it's happened. It's one of those that you just don't really, I think, appreciate until you step back and go like, man, this whole season, you think about that. But we've had just so many things back to back to back to back that you're like, man, we haven't really totally reflected yet because we still have everything in front of us, and it's way more for the team. Obviously as fans, we can kind of do a little bit of that. But I just like, man, I don't like. There's already so much excitement, and I hear what you're saying. Like, there's wisdom in the fact of like, yeah, hey, try to go to it. Like, but it's one thing to say it, and there's another thing to actually put it into action. And right now, I can almost promise you that it's going to be incredibly hard for me to go to sleep early by any point.
Especially this season, I feel like you've made what 2 trips at least, right, to Philadelphia, not counting the trip for like the charity softball game, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
We went to the game together. Then I had the game that I had credentials for. So it feels like this is like the most invested that I've been in like an Eagles season for a long, long time. So now for it to kind of finally like culminate in this moment and like this game is just, it's kind of insane to think about. But hopefully they come away with that victory. So
yeah, we're so close. I know that we're pretty confident in that. Let me give a couple shout outs here real quick because I missed the other one. John with another 5. So John's given out 10 memberships so far. Shout out to you. Actually, let's do this here. I'll keep it going, right? Because we're close to the Super Bowl. So here's 5 more. I think Muhammad missed it on the first couple of times. He'll probably miss it again because he's got no luck with those. But there's 5 more. Damon's, Fob, Kramer, Hex Ty, I think is how I would say that one, and Leslie. Congrats, you guys got the memberships there. Also, King, I didn't completely finish answering that question, but it's even more appropriate that Anthony's here. So he was asking, after the season, will I post? How long of a layoff? Yes, continued videos. There's not fully an off season, really. It kind of just goes right into the draft. Anthony has been like, you're the best, but like the push towards like, hey, here's these prospects. Here's someone to keep an eye out on the draft. It's cool, but I think you texted me last week, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was earlier this week, and you're like, hey, am I crazy for this? I'm like, it's a little bit. I can respect it, but it's a little bit because, but you've already, I'm sure you've already like dove right into reviewing some prospects and draft profiles and everything else. I've been like, I'm excited about it, but like, let's take care of business. Are you full-fledged in anything yet? Like, have you gotten into the tape to the extreme, or is it just like highlights and maybe a little bit so far for the players?
I mean, I've dived into tape like throughout the season of just like all like the top guys that I feel like a lot of people know about. But as far as like meetings and stuff, I actually reached out to Brian Cameron, who's the editor for Philly Sports Network, and I was like, hey, like earlier this week, I'm like, listen, I have my meeting tracker ready to go. Like whenever you guys, he's like, let's hold off till after the Super Bowl. Like I'm like, I got like 30 or more names already. Like I have it all in like a little note in my phone. So I mean, I've been reporting. I had a couple that I was able to report from the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl. So I mean, I'm just a lunatic like that. I love the draft stuff. That's like some of my favorite stuff. And then obviously now with the potential change at offense coordinator, I feel like people hate when I've been tweeting about that. They're like, listen, just worry about the Super Bowl. But I feel like everything and every aspect of the Super Bowl has kind of been covered by a lot of people. So just a different angle, something to look forward to afterwards. I'm not looking past the Chiefs. I'm not looking past the game, but it is something that's eventually going to have to be talked about. So everybody that knows me, they know how much I love the draft and all that stuff. That's kind of what I've kind of built my name up on. So I'm always going to be excited to talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I can appreciate that. And we'll have plenty of recordings. We did that before the combine, the draft, everything else of keeping people up to date. And for those that are not, I mean, even more up to date real time news, obviously follow the man himself at Baun NFL. Incredible follow, articles, everything. Like you said, the meeting tracker, that was the best, like most awesome invention ever. Cause I used to be like, where on earth are we? Can I, cause it was like, you try to like save tweets or bookmark, but then, you lose them because it doesn't really track that well. Or I'm like, oh, where was this other guy? But the tracker is beautiful because I can just go back and be like, there you go. Anthony's got it all down. So kudos to you, sir. I can
even pull it up on my phone now in the notes, but yeah, just a little sneak peek if anybody can see. Those are all names of people that the Eagles have met with.
That is so legit. I love that. Just so ingrained.
It's ready to go, and I'll try to update it as it goes on. But yeah.
Heck yes. Slated with a 5. We appreciate that. Says congrats to Saquon Barkley for winning Offensive Player of the Year. Heck yeah. I mean, good for him. right? He wasn't going to win MVP, unfortunately, because that's just, the way things go, I suppose. We already, I got a few comments of people saying, like, bro, he didn't win MVP. How is that? But like, I think the vast majority was already under the understanding, whether we agree with it or not, we're under the understanding it was going to be Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. But Offensive Player of the Year, that was where it's like, come on, that has to be Saquon Barkley. So at least they got that one right. And then even Eric Allen making the Hall of Fame. Those two.
Yes, which was kind of unexpected. I feel like nobody really predicted that. He's kind of been up for like as a finalist a couple times and never got through, but now he finally did. Supposedly there were reports or talks that they kind of changed the way that they want to go about the Hall of Fame. They don't really want to give too many guys like first ballot and put them in there. So it's going to be interesting because next year's like the nominees that'll be eligible for the first time, you got some like legendary names in there, Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, among others. So it'll be interesting to see if any of those guys make it. But yeah, Eric Allen finally getting through was really fun to see.
And Eli Manning did not make it, which you had made sure to let me know about your brother. Yes. Unfortunately,
my brother was not happy about that. He was because I was kind of texting him because I actually spoke to two of the people that have votes this year, and they were kind of talking about how like the lack of the All Pros and like just like if you looked at that whole era that he played for a long time, and his numbers look great as a whole or good as a whole, but like even those 2 Super Bowl runs that he had 54 touchdowns and 57 turnovers. Like, it's not like he was elite, like clearly a top 3, even top 5 player for like the entirety of his career, where a guy like Drew Brees was. It's just like he doesn't really stand out. And I know he played in the most important position in the NFL, but it's just like I was kind of happy to see him not get through because I thought, considering how much he's been involved with the NFL, with like the Manning cast and all that, I thought they were going to push him through and like get it done, but gladly they did it. So I was kind of able to bother my brother with that quite a bit. And the fact that Eric Allen got in on top of that, he was livid. So yes, he was tweeting through his pain last night.
I apologies a little bit maybe, but I was also somewhat enjoying that and the fact that you texted me as well, because you had the combo of that and then the thought of John Mara having to see Saquon Barkley win Offensive Player of the Year, and again it's just salt in the wound. Like, all right, well, that happened. That's where we're at.
And so now they have to watch him play in the Super Bowl too. So
Giants have been through a little bit of a
rough
couple
time. Days.
Yes. But we love it, Well, I will say, because there's still a little bit of I guess, not loving the part of the Eagles. I guess we could say snubbed or robbed. Maybe that feels appropriate because, Zack Baun, Defensive Player of the Year. If you had asked me, do I think that he was going to win the award beforehand, I would have said no, because the thought of, it's like they're going to figure out a way to not give it to him. But if you'd asked me about Fangio, and he still deserved it, Zack Baun deserved it, but if you'd asked me about Fangio, I would have said yes. Like, he's got to win the award. He's got to win Assistant Coach of the Year. And for him to be third, like Ben Johnson won, and then Aaron Glenn second, and then Vic Fangio third, I'm like, you got to be kidding. Are you serious? Both are snubs, but like, and Zack Baun was fifth, so that's also, but like, what does Fangio have to do? I don't know what other type of season that he would have to go in there and be like, oh, that should be your Assistant Coach of the Year.
Well, unfortunately, it's just like the way that the NFL markets things, right? It's like the offense is like the sexier thing. That's why you see like the quarterbacks are always the MVP, even if the running back has a phenomenal, nearly historic season. Like, they're always just going to be the Offensive Player of the Year. It's kind of just been delegated. Like, MVP is the quarterback like award, and then so it's just like with Vic Fangio, especially that he's an older coach that was a head coach already. Like, they don't want to really give that guy, I guess, that shine. And it's also important to note that like these guys do vote after the regular season, so none of the postseason really factors in to this. So like Quinyon Mitchell not having the 2 interceptions and things like that. So I didn't expect really Vic Fangio or Quinyon Mitchell, even Zack Baun, to win the award, because you have to kind of look a little bit further than the regular season and just almost dive a little bit more into those teams specifically. And the voters are kind of spread all over the country in all different markets. So if you just watch TV and national television, you see that Ben Johnson's always on TV. Like, you see this guy's always, so that's just how it goes. Yeah. They kind of play a factor in that too. So I think maybe if it was after the postseason, maybe these guys would have had a better chance, but I think it was fine overall. I know Zack Baun put up like Luke Kuechly-esque numbers, but apparently Luke Kuechly isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. So I don't know what's going on, but yeah, it's just, it sucks to see, but obviously they can right all of these other people's wrongs by winning the Super Bowl. And the fact that Zack Baun made first team All Pro, I feel like that was the true recognition that he deserved. So I almost would have been more upset if he didn't get that than him not winning Defensive Player of the Year, because I feel like he really, really earned that, and I'm glad that he got it.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. If he hadn't got that, you're right. I would be feeling the same way. It's just, again, I get Ben Johnson, right? He got the head coaching job. He's the hottest candidate to try to land somewhere, all that other stuff. I still 29th ranked defense to number 1 with a lot of young guys who've got to pick up something like, there's maybe some bias there, but I still would feel like that. If it was close and 1-2, I could probably find a way to live with that. But whenever I was seeing Aaron Glenn also ahead of Vic Fangio,
that's crazy. Yeah,
I'm like, look,
once again, it's
I know that he
because
dealt with injuries, but that's wild.
And it's just like the regular season thing, how many wins the Lions had. If it was after they lost literally their first playoff game, I think people, if the votes came in after that, I think the voting probably would have went a different direction, at least Fangio probably being second.
For sure.
Because the fact that Ben Johnson decided to throw with Jameson Williams or whatever he did, it's just they made a couple questionable calls, and I feel like that kind of would have ruined their sterling reputation that they had heading into the postseason. But that's just how it is. Every sport, it seems like, votes before the postseason, so that's never really going to play into it.
Unfortunately, but like you said, win the big one, right the wrongs of the voters on that one, I suppose, and we'll be fine. Drew with a 2 says, it's my birthday. Hey, there you go. F the Chiefs. Say it, Josh. You want me to say it? You even started out. You didn't even type it out here. How am I going to say? I'll say F the Chiefs. I could say that. I'm not going to curse here, but I'll say that. F the Chiefs. There you go. And happy birthday, Drew. It is family friendly.
Birthday,
yes. I hope we're all feeling the same way, especially after the first, the way the first meeting went. Let's leave no doubt. Let's make sure and win this one. There's no excuses. There shouldn't be any excuses because we take a look at the injury report. Deep Crow, I'll get to yours here in a second. Let me make sure I can actually get this on the screen without losing you. I think that I can. Let me double check. And okay, I lost you briefly. I think I can get you back here quickly. There we go. Okay.
It's all right. People don't want to see me anyway. They could just listen to me.
It was set up for different settings, but we figured it out. You're back on the screen. So, okay, injury report, people wondering, got questions on this. We could walk people through. Yesterday was, let's just say this. Yesterday was in a 2-hour span, the number of DMs that I got of bro, are you seeing this? This is terrible. What's going on? We're going to have Jalen Carter not playing to maybe not even 2 hours, just an hour later, whatever. It's oh, Jalen Carter, Fangio expects him to be good, should be fine. You see some video of him out there, pictures that are getting tweeted out too. And you're like, okay, he'll be all right. He's going to be okay. Different story today because there's not as much panic to begin with, but just continuing on that good news. Friday's injury report, you got Nick Gates with a groin, limited. He's questionable for the game. You've got an interesting take on that one, which I'll ask you here in a second. And then Devontae Smith with the hamstring, limited. So we'll get into Smitty, we'll get into the others, but first, because of your thoughts on the Nick Gates and why he, is dealing with the groin.
So everybody knows that Brandon Graham's going to play in this game, right? It seems like that's kind of been trending in that direction for about a week or so now. He's even talked about it. So I mentioned I thought Nick Gates was going to be the guy that eventually was going to get cut or whatever for Brandon Graham's spot, because the fact that they didn't even use him as the backup center, they went with a hobbled Cam Jurgens. Well, they went with Landon Dickerson first, and then when he got hurt, they went with Cam Jurgens. They didn't even have Nick Gates active. So the fact that they haven't even used him when he has been able to be used as their backup center, that kind of shows how they view him at this point. And now all of a sudden Brandon Graham's trending in the right direction, while Nick Gates is obviously all of a sudden dealing with a groin injury at an awfully convenient time. And we've seen Howie Roseman kind of do this before to get guys onto the IR. So I think what's going to happen is he'll be placed on IR or waived, however you want to look at it. And then Brandon Graham will take that roster spot and be ready to go for the Super Bowl. How he's done it before, it just seems like it's the recurring theme, and it's flowing awfully convenient timing to when Graham's going to have to be activated on Saturday.
It is. It very much is. And Britton Covey, as we've talked about a number of times, but he's officially out, as we show and talk about there, but full practice, full participant. The neck injury that is, I guess allows them to do things on the roster with his, but it's very strange because he had the injury, then he goes on the IR, he comes back, you're like, oh, he's healthy. He still has the neck injury. Something, just some Good old usage of the roster flexibility, the roster management there. But yes, it'll be great news because BG would play. He should play. He said that he's planning on it. We gotten so many different sound bites and seen him in practice, get the full practice in. So that'll be good. The Devontae Smith hamstring, the best part is, like, look, there's no designation there. So that's the first thing is you see, okay, there's not even a Q, which would be questionable. Then we'd be like, okay, that would be some alarms. He's been limited all week, but we've seen this throughout the season that they manage it. He even said it's more just maintenance. It's not a big deal. He's not concerned. He's going to play, and we've seen him play well. So yes, for those going like, okay, limited, maybe that is something. I think it's just precautionary. It's not like he needs to go in there and get more reps by this point of the season. I mean, the dude's a consummate professional. He knows what he's doing. He's not going to lose a step by going, oh, hey, Devontae didn't get a full practice in all week. He's going to be fine. But, I mean, Kansas City fans see it. I've seen it. I've probably seen more Kansas City fans seeing that going, whoa, hey, like, you guys going to be all right? What about Smitty? But I think we'll be all right.
I mean, have you seen what Devontae Smith has done to them in the 3 games that he's played against them? I would feel the same way if I was them. Like,
they're hoping he's not playing.
He's had his way with the Chiefs basically whenever they've played. So I think the more important thing, I mean, I had some people message me saying like, oh, do you think Devontae Smith's not going to play? Or like, is he like, I think he's fine. The fact that he finished the NFC Championship game was fine. You saw how happy he was saying like, we're going home, like back to pretty much his hometown to play in the Super Bowl. Like, this is what they've done all season long, even with A.J. Brown. When he was not practicing at all, and then he would pop up as a limited participant, and then he would play, and he'd be perfectly fine. So the fact that A.J. Brown has mentioned how he's now fully recovered and feels like really good after dealing with the injury throughout the playoffs up to this point, I think that's more notable than Devontae Smith being limited with his hamstring injury or whatever they want to label it. So I think both of them will be fine. The Eagles are pretty much in about as good of shape as you could ask for at this point, especially with Brandon Graham returning. So I think they're in good shape heading into this matchup.
I agree. I was also going to put this up here too because people asking, Jalen Carter is better, right? He got in the practice, the illness that he's maybe. I'm just curious, right? Because there's been something going around. Sure, I'm not denying the fact that Nolan Smith on Saturday was like, man, you don't want what I had. But like you see this clip, I would play it for people that started going around Twitter today. Like that's. If that dude had flu-like symptoms, I don't think that he's showing up for the Green Legion party and like going around any extracurricular activity. I think he'd be, hey, I'm going to just chill out in my hotel room and just be ready for Sunday. So he is 100%, but I don't even know if it was as extreme. It might have just been, heck, who knows? You got to get food poisoning, like a bad case of gumbo or something like that. But like he appears to be fine. So for people that were wondering, go like, yeah, I know he got to practice, but he's still sickness, could have lingering effects. I think that was the initial thought, but we've seen that. You see the pictures that the Eagles social team posted, the video clips of him also working out and practicing. If there was anything at all of like, yeah, maybe he's not going to have his full strength and not be able to go, there's no way you're letting him walk around the streets of New Orleans or let alone doing a full practice, beforehand. So I think it says all that you need to. But good news for the bread man. He should be fine.
Yeah, he should be good. And I wonder if there is something to the point of like, because we've said over and over again how Sirianni kind of falls on the sword and goes to bat for his players all the time. But somebody tweeted, I don't remember who it was specifically, but they had mentioned like he wonders if it was Jalen Carter strategically being like sat out for these open media sessions where we saw Quinyon Mitchell asked about the last Super Bowl. Like clearly a lot of these reporters don't do their homework. They don't really know what's going on, but
just a bit.
They do know. It seems like they do know like the biggest hot topic stories. And sure enough, a lot of people want to bring up the incident with Jalen Carter before he was drafted, on the unfortunate situation, obviously tragic situation. So maybe Sirianni and the team, he probably was sick. He was dealing with something, but maybe they were also looking ahead thinking like they don't want him really being faced with those questions before the biggest game of his life. Like you don't really want people to have to rehash those moments. So maybe it was a way of the team to kind of like keep him away from those questions. And maybe that played into it as well. I don't know if that's true or not. But it is something that I did think about, considering how well he did look in the practice videos, pictures, and the fact that he went to that fan meetup with the Green Legion or whatever it was in New Orleans as well. So, yeah, it's definitely a little shady, but he seems to be fine, which is really what matters heading into the game.
That's a great point actually. Yeah, I think I'd maybe seen that tweet, but if you don't have to deal with the media and all the responsibilities there, why would you? There's a few guys maybe that get a lot of it, or they're like, oh, it's cool, possibly. It just JC does not strike me as the type of guy that's like, oh, let's go talk to the media here and give extra stuff. Not that he doesn't mind it, but if you can get out of it, just practice, focus on football, you'll be good to go. I think maybe the only one that I would say other than that is Nolan Smith, who couldn't care less. I think that he, in a roundabout way, basically told somebody just kind of F off, which I appreciated because the question that was asked was something just ridiculous. He's like, why would I care about that? He's like, I care about football. I don't care.
He's trying to do his best impersonation
of
Alshon Jeffrey. So.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, what in the world? Which we can appreciate. So,
yes.
Mentioned Deep Crow here with the 5. Says, midway through the season, it was looking like both our linebackers would be expensive. Unfortunately, N'Kobe's injury makes him cheap. I hope that we keep Milton. There's a lot of other people, I feel like, we've brought this up a couple different times, but if you're trying to keep guys, you have the mindset that it's Zack, Baun, and possibly no one. I mean, depends on where they view Mekhi Becton, but I think, Josh Sweat's for sure gone. Milton, it would take a miracle, I think, for him to stay.
Yeah, I think Milton Williams is going to get paid, and Josh Sweat's going to get paid. I don't know if Josh Sweat would be back regardless, but I think both of those guys are going to get paid a lot more than people are anticipating, especially Milton Williams. I mean, these guys, we saw what the Eagles did with Bryce Huff, where these guys they kind of played in like the background for a couple of years, and then they kind of had that breakout season in their contract year. And that's kind of what Milton Williams is doing this year. And teams are watching. They know how good these players are. Vic Fangio said he was watching like Milton Williams when he was in Miami. So teams have taken notice of these guys, and Milton Williams, his age plays into it. The fact that he's kind of doesn't have a ton of snaps logged because he didn't play the biggest role before this season. So he's going to get paid a ton of money, and maybe like a Javon Hargrave-esque contract where people are kind of surprised by how much he gets. And he's obviously earlier in his career at this point too. So I think the Eagles might kind of bow out of that discussion, knowing that they might have to pick up Jordan Davis's 5th-year option before next season. They have to make a decision on that. And then a couple years down the line, they'll have to pay Jalen Carter. And Moro Ojomo has shown so much promise in his limited snaps as well that I feel like they might view him as like the in-house replacement for a guy like Milton Williams. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think Zack Baun, in my mind, is the one that they have to prioritize. And after that, I feel like they kind of have replacements in-house that they can go with. Tyler Steen for Mekhi Becton, things like that. But obviously it's also Howie Roseman. We don't really know what he's thinking. So
that's true. Be curious to know what he's thinking about Myles Garrett. But that's further. That's, much more down the line. What it would take, it feels like it's going to be too much of an asking price anyway. But keep everybody posted if and when something happens that is one of the next, I think, polarizing topics. That and, who the offensive coordinator is going to get. But we got other business to attend to before we get there. Lar with the 5. Josh, are you coming to Philly for the parade? Fly Eagles Fly. I don't know. I haven't thought about that one yet. I feel like my stance is similar to what C.J. Gardner-Johnson said, because they asked him about the parade, and he's like, I haven't even thought about like what I would do, where that's going to take, like all the other stuff yet until like let's just win it first. So, I wouldn't rule it out. It's I don't know. It would have to just happen first. I really don't want to jinx. Like, we're both in similar boats because I think we texted about this and we've mentioned it a couple different times. I want to do like as little as I possibly can to rock the boat, in the sense of like superstitions, wearing something differently, like just let's keep everything how we need to. Wear the jersey that works for you, the memorabilia that needs to be on the desk, the table, like the dog needs to be outside or inside, like whatever you need to do to make sure that we win this one. So yeah, I'm not getting ahead of myself. Like, we're not, Joey said, make no plans. There's nothing being planned yet. We'll wait. Once it happens, then we will do that. But I did the same thing for game tickets for the playoffs as well. I was like, I should go ahead and get them. And they skyrocketed. I should have, but I was like, if I buy them, they're going to lose to the Rams. So I didn't buy them. And it worked out.
I'm right there with you. I'm wearing the same hat and your shirt that to represent. I've been wearing for all the recordings so far for the playoffs. I'm not breaking any
I should
of these
appreciate
things.
that.
I've been invited to like go to this restaurant or go to this person's house for the Super Bowl, and I'm like, nope. I'm gonna be home with my wife and the kids, just like I have for all of the other postseason games this year. So I'm not breaking any traditions. I'm not breaking any not thinking past the game. Just, I think they have a good chance. Obviously, we'll dive into the game a little bit, but I'm not changing anything on my end.
I agree. Yes. And I'm wearing the Nolan Smith jersey. So for people that were wondering, I can't wear the AJ because I wore it last Super Bowl and it didn't work. So we can't wear it anymore. at least for the Super Bowl. It worked for the NFC Championship game, but yeah, Super Bowl, trying something different. We'll go with Nolan. So it's been successful in some of the regular season games, but they've won a lot of those. So it's time to get it out for the Super Bowl. See what happens there. Larry with a 5. Appreciate that. Actually, it looks like it was a sticker, possibly a super sticker, but we appreciate the super sticker. I was about to just read what that was as if it was a comment, but thank you for that, Larry. Appreciate that one. Actually, I'll go ahead and gift out 5 more. We might as well, because we're trying to throw as much positive energy as we possibly can before the Super Bowl. So there's 5 Philly Special Show memberships. Dominic, that Philly guy, Hanif, Vito, and N. Martinez. I believe those 5. You got the access to the membership. So congratulations there. Really quickly, because we don't need to cover it, I guess, too long, because the Chiefs are healthy. The one thing was Sky Moore, who had been in the IR, is doubtful. They would have to make room for him, obviously, to return to the active roster, but with him being doubtful to begin with, doesn't feel like he's going to end up playing. Might not have necessarily played a factor. He did in Super Bowl 57, of course, but a little bit of a different roster makeup and everything there. That's not, you don't see that as any, like, I don't know, negative or a big impact for the Chiefs one way or the other, do you?
No, I mean, they use a lot of heavy personnel already, 12 personnel, so I don't even know if he was activated, if we even see the field, because they have Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, and whoever else, Hollywood Brown as well. So they have talent at receiver. I mean, as long as Kadarius Toney's not walking through that door, we don't have to worry about him. I think they'll be all right. But yeah, I don't think he's going to play much of a factor. Like you said, he scored on that pre-snap motion that it seemed like they didn't have an answer for the last time around. Obviously, the Eagles defense is defending plays like that a whole lot better under Vic Fangio. So even if he did play, I think they'd be fine. But like you said, I don't think he'd have much of a role regardless.
Yep. Okay, right there with you. Dunkle Monkey, I think that's how I would say that, with a 2. Josh, are you going to the victory parade? There's another one. Oh, I answered a second ago. We're not rocking the boat. No decisions being made. Can neither confirm nor deny.
What parade? What are you talking about?
Yeah, there's nothing planned yet. Not the polls have not been greased either. We'll see. I am going to do the Jalen Hurts signed jersey giveaway here in a second. People are asking about that. Not yet. We'll get to it here maybe 5 or 10 minutes, something like that. But it's coming up, so stay tuned. All you got to do is be on the live stream, and I'm going to tell you what to comment. We'll make sure that this thing works this time, and good to go. Drew with a 2 says, I guess getting into potentially the preview of it. So I guess this will work. I was going to ask you this here in a second. So, Drew, I'm gonna save this comment. We'll come back to it. It is good question, but I'm gonna save this one. So hold up. I like it though. You mentioned, Anthony. You mentioned the quick passes, misdirection, having guys that are just not really in tune because they did the motion, and guys back in 22 or 23 whenever they were not able to capitalize. Obviously, a difference with Jonathan Gannon as the defensive coordinator instead of Vic Fangio. But the number of times that I've heard Patrick Mahomes is 8-0 against Vic Fangio is like just ridiculous because it gets brought up every single time. Is that a concern at all in your mind? I mean, what's the takeaway whenever you keep hearing, or I'm sure reading or seeing it just all over the place of like, oh, well, Mahomes is 8-0 because he's 16-0 indoors also. That's the other one that gets thrown out there. Mahomes unbeatable, 8-0 against Fangio, 16-0 indoors in his career. It's a little bit different this time.
Well, there were also the streak that like quarterbacks that lost their Super Bowl debut never returned, right? So like Jalen Hurts already broke that streak. So maybe the fact that Saquon Barkley, I think it was whenever a guy had 2 games against a team or they ran for over 200 yards with the Rams, and then the 7 other rushers that did it and didn't eclipse 100 yards in their rematch, Saquon Barkley did it. So, I mean, the Eagles have been breaking streaks all season long, it seems like. So maybe this is just another one. But if you look at those teams, especially the Fangio thing, it's just like the quarterbacks he had, Drew Lock, Joe Flacco, like over the hill, Joe Flacco, whoever else was there. Like, it's not the most inspiring thing. And I think Pierre from the Philly Blitz, he had put out a tweet saying like they put up 11 points, 10 points, 7 points. I think like 24 points. They only eclipsed 20 points like once in those 8 games. So he was basically getting no help from the offense. And then it's just like the situations that he was put in. I mean, obviously the Chiefs had much better teams, and he was just didn't have great quarterback play, didn't have great offensive play. Like his defenses did relatively well. I mean, in those 8 games, Patrick Mahomes had 10 passing touchdowns. So if you want to say that you held him to basically 1 touchdown a game, like that seems like a pretty damn good performance to me, and I would take that pretty much any day of the week. And then Shil Kabadia from the Philly special, like he dove into it, the Ringers Philly special, not this Philly special, but he dove into it and said that I think his EPA, because he's big into the EPA if you're into that, but he said his EPA, Patrick Mahomes' EPA for those 8 games was basically his career average. So he didn't have stellar performances either from that aspect. So I think it's kind of like overblown. I think it's just an easy stat to kind of throw out there. But overall, Vic Fangio's defense, which is obviously what he's in charge for in Philadelphia, has played well against the Chiefs in those games.
There you go. That's what I can appreciate, is the fact that there's just more context going into it. It's not like it's untrue, but it's just there's more context that needs to be shared within those. And it goes both ways, so we can also appreciate that. Drew, again, I will get to yours here in a second. I'm not forgetting about you, but it's coming up for the topic. It'll be after the giveaway too, but I'll get to your super chat. Dirty Air with a 5 says 48 hours from now, Saquon will be breaking a 53-yarder to put a nail in the coffin. I love the fact that it's not only breaking one to put the nail in the coffin, it's a specific 53-yarder to put the nail in the coffin. Yeah, I say, you know what, Gary, if that happens, I'll send you a Saquon Barkley if it's 53 specifically. If he breaks off a 53-yarder for a nail in the coffin, I'll get you a Saquon Barkley. I'm just trying to put as much again. I'm trying to put as much like I feel like I'm making like a ton of different parlays and just having to give myself as many odds as possible, as much as we can.
You want all the good karma
because this needs to happen. It's what we're trying to do. Okay, but I do like it. Again, it's a specific 53 yards. Fanny with the 5 says, hey, Josh, Ant-Man, any chance Rodgers is staying with Slay, taking an admin position his final year? I don't know. I could say it's not out of the realm of possibility. I know that there's I'm trying to think of how I'm going to say this. A special interest in Philly. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but like they took a chance on him. So if it can work out financially, that's, I guess, just the question. What team might see him and be willing to pay more, or does Howie Roseman and Vic Fangio say, no, we want him as a potential for that starter job, because it was, when guys have gotten injured, he's obviously gone in there and filled in. So, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely a chance. I don't know what percentage I would put on that, but I would say for sure that there's a chance with Isaiah.
It's kind of funny when you think about it, because guys like Isaiah Rodgers, Mekhi Becton, Zach Baun, they hit free agency. Obviously, it didn't seem like there was a ton of interest based on the contracts that they signed. And then but the fact that the Eagles gave them those opportunities, especially a guy like Isaiah Rodgers, where they held him for a whole year on their roster when they knew he couldn't play, and they kind of invested in him and showed that trust in him. So I do wonder that now that they are going to hit the open market with maybe obviously much better stock, I think it'll be interesting to see if they're willing to take kind of a hometown discount to remain in Philadelphia. Whereas guys like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, who are really going to be hitting the open market basically for the first time in their careers, they might be willing to just take the money. They don't feel like they need to stay loyal to the Eagles or anything. Granted, they have the team that drafted them, but they also know this is the first time they're hitting the open market. They're going to see who's showing interest. But those other 3 guys, I'm definitely going to be interested to watch. And I feel like Isaiah Rodgers has shown everything, when he's had to play in place of Darius Slay, especially since the bye week. He's played really well when he's had to step in, and it's not an easy position to be put in, where you're just coming off cold off the bench and have to play against guys like Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp or whoever else throughout the season that he's had to step up against. So I think the fact that he stayed ready, he said all the right things, I think it plays well for him in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm hopeful that I've also heard this. I can neither confirm nor deny of legit multiple sources, things like this, but there's a good chance, we'll just say that, of Zack Baun re-signing because of the feeling of Philly and being here and all that other stuff. So he's for sure, got to be top of the list, I would imagine, for Howie, and we've talked about this a couple times. But yeah, when it comes to those other guys, it'll be interesting. I'm curious of where the priorities are, what type of deal maybe they're willing for a team friendly. If not, you move on. You got a lot of depth at multiple areas, specifically on the defense. So we'll see. Chris with a 5. Josh, wear whatever you want. We have the best defense this year, the best running game of all time. So I guess it's not going to matter. It says 45-27. No one likes us. We don't care. That's a lot of scoring, both sides. But 45-27. It's a lot.
I saw somebody share that. What was it? The Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl where it was like 43-8 or something like that. It was something ridiculous, and they were like, could that be like? I'm like,
How great would
I don't
that
know
be?
about that, but that would be nice.
Doubt,
the most like stress-free game of the year is the Super Bowl. That would be.
We would all pay for that. Absolutely. Damon's with a 2. There was a little bit of typo, so came back with 5 more. Okay, says that was supposed to say, "What's poppin', fellas? Fly Eagles fly." What's up, man? How's it going? Appreciate the double up there. It was not necessary, but appreciate that. Tyler with a 5 says the narrative is so dumb. Yes, 8-0, but Vic Fangio offenses, they have only averaged 11 points per game. This team will support the defense better than he ever has gotten against Mahomes. Yeah, I mean, they better score more than 11. They could get more than 11 points per game.
That means Vic Fangio's offenses in those games were worse than this year's Giants team, right? Because I think they averaged like 13 or 14 points per game. So just like to put things in perspective, that's how poor the offense was. And I think that's counting like a couple of special teams touchdowns or like defensive touchdowns that they got. So it's just crazy.
That's actually a good way to put it in perspective because we can understand that probably better too. The recency and all that. Yeah, that would be miserable. There's going back and watching some of those games because I was looking through some of those clips and everything of Fangio with those offenses. I mean, it's one thing to be said, and it's actually ironic that you bring up the Giants as kind of the similarity there, because Drew Lock was the quarterback in that instance with Fangio. So there are some similarities between those teams.
Maybe it's a Drew Lock problem, not a Vic Fangio problem.
Hey, some people might argue, although we got beat by Drew Lock in Seattle last year. But we'll move on. John with a 5. Nolan Smith is going to have a monster game. I predict 1.5 sacks on Sunday and a lot of pressures. Let's go, baby. That is exactly what I'm feeling. I'll take more than that, but 1.5 sacks, multiple pressures. Nolan, a game wrecker out there. Line him up against Juwan Taylor, have like 7 false starts, something like that. Let's go.
How many times do you think Juwan Taylor and Lane Johnson like jumping early is going to be mentioned throughout the Super Bowl? Because I feel like they both get away with it quite a bit, especially Juwan Taylor. It's like really egregious when he does it, but it's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
The funny thing that you say that like with you mentioning that is because there's props on everything. Yeah. I could almost guarantee, I haven't gone through and looked at the whole list because it'd take you like a whole day to just scroll through and see that. But I would be willing to bet that might be a prop on there. Like, how many times will, with Lane Johnson, Juwan Taylor, will that be mentioned? Or how many times will they get called for a false start based on that? Yeah. Like something, you could bet on anything these days. Gamble responsibly, of course. But, if you're going to do it, you might as well scan the QR code, use code Philly Special. There's a subtle plug. Ebanda with a 10, people saying they stopped our rush 2 years ago. Forget the field was overrated. Yes, both teams played on it, but it stopped our pass rush because everyone was slipping all around all the game, not this time on turf. I've talked about it a couple times of the speed, and Sal Powell had the segment on ESPN. Several others were sharing it, but I think it makes a big difference. And you also remember, how the defense played in New Orleans. Granted, it was against the Saints. It's not the Chiefs, but you still, playing in New Orleans in the Dome, and they were flying all over the field. Like, there was a much improved defensive performance than what we'd seen the first couple games. And so, you try to hopefully continue that. And Fangio, I believe he talked to him in the first team meeting, even bringing it up, saying like, hey, there's probably an advantage to be had if we're tackling and if we have sure tackling. But I don't hate it. Should be better than Arizona.
Going back to that game in New Orleans, look how fast Dallas Goedert looked on that catch and run that he had. So I mean, the field is literally like built for, like they said, it's like the Speed Force 3 or something. Like, it's like literally built for performance. And like supposedly Saquon Barkley is not the biggest fan of that kind of field, but
interesting.
I mean, I think I read that somewhere that he prefers natural grass. He's not too big on like turf fields. So, but I mean, he looks good on any surface. I feel like you could let him play on concrete and he'll put up 100 rushing yards. So. I think they'll be all right, and I'm excited to kind of see what the team can do on a surface like this. Whereas we saw obviously the nightmare that Arizona was, and the field in Brazil. Like, it feels like these primetime games, these big moments, the Eagles haven't had the best like surface to play on, and this should kind of be the opposite of that.
It should be, yes. Actually, I think maybe I said overrated. Either way, I think we got the point, but it's overwatered. So I did see your comment, Ebanda. You're good. I just misread it. So we're good with you. Greaser with a 5. No turnovers. We win 31-17. You can make book on that. 31-17. Turnovers are crucial. We know that. Don't give extra opportunities to the Chiefs. I think that they've had, I believe I saw a stat that the Chiefs are 9 straight postseason games without, without winning the turnover, or maybe without getting a turn. I'd have to go back and look. There was some kind of egregious stat of Patrick Mahomes and maybe not winning the turnover battle. Like it could be tied, but just not winning it and still winning like 9 straight or something. Granted, they're going for a three-peat, so naturally, I guess whatever stat you throw out there, they're going to have the active streak. But it's still kind of, impressive. Just make sure you win the turnover battle. That's whenever Philly definitely dominates. Win the turnover battle, outrush the Chiefs for at least 50 yards, and that sets you up for a lot of really good things based on the analytics.
And it's like I sent out a tweet talking about how great the Eagles have been, especially Jalen Hurts, in recent weeks, basically almost since the bye week as far as turning the ball over goes. And people were like, thanks, you just jinxed it. Like now they're going to have turn. I'm like, Jalen Hurts has thrown, 1 interception since the bye week, and they're like plus 15 in their last 5 games in the turnover battle. Like they're really dominating teams, and it's not like you sent me that stat earlier today about like that it kind of didn't really account for turnovers because it kind of said it was like a little bit lucky and fluky. But if you look at what, like, especially against Washington, how they were just punching the ball out over and over again, like that's something that you directly impact. Like that's something that's taught to the defense, and they've talked about it over and over again throughout the season, how they've kind of emphasized that in practice. You see drills of them doing it in practice. So I don't know if that's so much luck as it is. This is what Vic Fangio, Christian Parker, Bobby Kinnick, all these guys are just drilling into their heads at practice, and it's clearly working out for them at this point.
No, it definitely is. Yeah, without a doubt. But sometimes people don't want to give them credit for whatever reason because I guess it feels fluky, but yeah, you see teams that practice it and do have the fundamentals and others that don't. So, I don't know. I read things, though, and there's an element of it. If I texted you and I was like, I just didn't need to stumble across that because then, someone tries to sell me on the idea, well, hey, maybe there's a little bit of something
doubt,
to this, right? I don't need that. Clay with the 2 NFL honors disrespected number 1 defense. Yes, defense will hunt. Got something to prove. Absolutely. No doubt on that. And then Eric with a 5 says, I go through this game over and over, and I think Eagles have more ways to win than lose. Can't ever count out Mahomes, but it feels 80-20 in terms of the Eagles winning with the Chiefs. I would agree with that.
I mean, I feel like we've talked about it a couple of times, at least texting or whatever. Like, I thought my confidence level would lower a little bit at this point, but it just seemed like, even with like the people talking about the 8-0 versus Vic Fangio, 16-0 inside, like all of that stuff that could kind of create doubt in your mind. It's just like, just looking at the teams side by side, I just feel like the teams are just much better in a lot of important categories, and I feel like I think they're going to win. So obviously we'll get into our final score predictions later, but yeah, I'm definitely confident in the Eagles.
Yeah, if both teams play up to the potential, I was talking to my brother earlier today, and we were like texting about this, and it's like the thing is, if both teams like played to their absolute max potential, Eagles and Chiefs, the Eagles are going to win. There's no way, and you could still argue and say, hey, Mahomes is better than Hurts, fine, but like overall, if the team plays up to their potential, the Eagles are going to win. So I agree, the 80-20, absolutely. They just need to go out there and prove it. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Don't have crazy, stupid turnovers. And the other part is you've got better coaching now. So the second half, making adjustments, things that we either saw or didn't see in the last Super Bowl, should be better with Fangio. So I got a lot more confidence in that. By the way, I'm going to spin here in just a second. If you want in, here you go. This is the comment that you have to put down here in the comment section or in the live chat. It is on this video. Anyone on the live stream, you want to win a signed Jalen Hurts jersey because I mentioned it on the last video. If it got 4,000 likes and you guys crushed it up to like 6,000, just enter QB1. That's all you got to do. QB1 enters you for the giveaway. Only do it once. If you do it multiple times, I think you get kicked. So just fair warning, only one comment. QB1, do it once now. You will get counted, and then I will spin here in like 2 or 3 minutes. Somebody on the live stream is going to get it. You got to stay here. Don't type that in and then leave. I forgot who was that. Daquan last time. It took forever. Yes. He got it. He barely got it, but it took forever. There we go. There's the QB1s. While we're getting there, Jake Johnson with a 5. I've been asking people, who are they rooting for? Everyone that doesn't watch football says the Eagles, since they are sick of Taylor Swift. I will take it. That's interesting. That's that I could understand that. I've got a lot of Cowboys fans that have, surprisingly, I could never say like I'd want to cheer for the Cowboys, but I've got a lot of Cowboys fans in Dallas that are like, yeah, man, rooting for you. Can't stand the Chiefs anymore. So, I mean, I guess I'll take it, but
I don't know. It's kind of been split. It's kind of been split for me. I mean, being in New York, there's a lot of people that like, they say they don't want the Eagles to win because they don't want to see me happy, or they don't want to. The Giants fans don't want to see the Eagles fans happy. So, yeah. But then there are people of the same way that are like, they're tired of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and Patrick Mahomes. Like, it gets boring. Like, same thing in basketball when Golden State was winning or Miami was winning. Like, seeing every team like repeat, it gets a little boring, and you want to see things kind of switched up a little bit.
Yeah, it gets old. The dynasties, nobody wants to see. You look at the heat map that they show every once in a while. I'm sure everybody's seen it, but it's like, hey, what states are rooting for which teams? And it's like, you got Missouri, you got Kansas, and that's kind of it for Kansas City. And then you got a lot more people that are rooting for the Eagles. It's not the full country split. I can't remember. There was either Hawaii or Alaska was popping up as also Kansas City Chiefs, but I forgot which one. But anyway, there's the vast majority. You just don't want to see it. And same thing happened with the Patriots. Like, you get it's tiring. You got the dynasty. Everybody wants to see them fall. They're the villain. So the Eagles need to do it here again. Just knock them off, and we'll be fine.
They technically stopped the Patriots three-peat, right? It was the one in the middle, but they stopped them from
that's true. I will take it. Is it they would have gotten it right, because we could argue if we hadn't, then they would have for sure.
That's
Not
it.
that we can necessarily extrapolate that, but I like it. I'll take it. Second three-peat to be stopped here. Let's do it. Okay. I'm about to spin. I got in just about everybody here. You have to be present, but we should be covered. So we've got all the messages in. I'm going to put let me make sure that I can get both on screen. All right, here we go. We're going to pick the winner and spin. Good luck all. Jalen Hurts signed jersey. Who is it? It will be Nigel. Nigel B. Is it Nigel Bradham? Let's see. I need to comment here on the chat. I kind of doubt it is. But I do need to see that you're here on the chat. So just confirm back and comment something, Nigel B. If you don't, then I'm going to have to give it to somebody else. I'm trying to monitor better. I've been told that by my wife, actually, that she's like, they commented and you just didn't see it. And they probably did. So maybe Daquan was saying something much earlier and I was just missing him. But
he wasn't. I was watching that time.
Okay. You were watching that one. All right. So I'm looking for Nigel B. There we go. There's Nigel. I see it. Nigel B says, here, let's go, baby. You got it. So you got the Jalen Hurts signed jersey. I need you to email me. Man, lots of people are like, he's not here. He's not here. Then there's okay. I could appreciate that. All right. Lots of people looking out. At first, there's a few that are saying he's not here. Nigel, I need you to email me at thephillyspecialshow@gmail.com. You can also DM me on one of the socials, any of the socials. So Twitter works, Instagram works, but just shoot me a message. I'll get your info, get a pic to absolutely make sure that it's you of your profile. And then I'll get you the jersey. So congratulations. You got it. Jalen Hurts signed jersey. Hopefully that's good luck for us.
It was a lot quicker than last time.
Yeah, much quicker. A lot of times last time it was taking forever. So good on you. Congrats, Nigel. All right. Now, we were waiting on this, but, going through the other stuff. So, Sean, I see the 2 there. I didn't get a comment, but thanks for the support. Appreciate that. If you have a comment, let me know. I can put that one up on the screen. So, Drew mentioned this a second ago, and this is where we'll get into it as well. Thanks for the 2, Drew. Says, all right, Anthony, who is the under-the-radar player? So as we naturally do, talking about different areas to exploit, potential matchups, strengths, weaknesses, things like that. Super Bowl 59, Eagles and Chiefs. What are like the maybe top 2 or 3 matchups or areas that you're looking at there? Potentially, under the radar as Drew mentioned, but just some areas to look at, 2 or 3.
So I'll start with the under the radar player. I'll go with the Chiefs player because maybe this might throw things off a little bit, but Nico Remigio, who's their return specialist now, he had a big return against the Bills. He's had a couple big returns throughout the season, and we saw obviously the return aspect of the game play a big role in the last Super Bowl that these teams played off. So I think if there was a time where they kind of flipped the field, that would be a player that I would watch for because we've seen the Eagles special teams unit. They've played better in recent weeks, but they have struggled at times. So that'll be something to monitor. But diving into the areas to potentially exploit for the Eagles, I think the number one thing is a guy that I mentioned the last time we had a live stream, but I think it's going to be a big Dallas Goedert performance. And the Chiefs have really struggled against tight ends this season. They'd have allowed the most yards of any teams to opposing tight ends this season. So the fact that Dallas Goedert has kind of been on fire in the playoffs, I think playing in that Week 18 game, a lot of people thought, myself included, that it was a little weird to see him play so deep into that game. And they were like, oh, we just want him to knock off the rust. But clearly it worked out because he's leading the team in receiving yards so far in the postseason. And this is obviously a great matchup for him. He didn't play against them last year when they played during the regular season. So this could be kind of a revenge game for him. And then jumping over to the defensive side of the ball, it has to be Jalen Carter. And not just Jalen Carter, but Milton Williams as well. I think the Eagles kind of interior duo of those two, considering that Kansas City's kind of had to shuffle things around. They put Joe Thuney out at left tackle and Caliendo's now in his spot. And ever since they made that change, they've allowed a pressure rate of 9.0%, which is the 4th highest in the NFL since that they made that change. And if you look at before they made that change, they allowed a pressure rate of just 5.1%, which was the 4th lowest in the NFL. So they've basically completely flipped as far as allowing pressure along the interior of the offensive line since making that change. And obviously Jalen Carter and Milton Williams have been one of the NFL, if not the best interior duo as far as rushing the passer. So that matchup is huge. And then lastly, I'm going to jump back over to the offensive side. A.J. Brown versus press coverage. We've known all season long how well he's been against press coverage, how well he's been outside the numbers. And guess who lines up their cornerbacks the most in press coverage in the NFL? The Kansas City Chiefs at
Spags.
At 51.5% of the time. So Jalen Hurts, he's recorded the high, players that have been targeted at least 100 times in press coverage. He's recorded the highest target percentage at 37.3% and the highest yards per route run at 3.5 yards per route. So he's just dominated press coverage, and obviously that's what Kansas City kind of likes to lean on. So I think he could be in for a huge game as well. So him and Dallas Goedert should be making plenty of catches, and then obviously Devontae Smith has had his way against the Chiefs as well. So I think this could be a little bit more of an aerial attack from the Eagles than people expect.
Okay, I like it. That I was going to ask you because I got a couple plays that I'm putting together, and it was like Jalen possibly over on yards. It could be a little bit of difference if the Chiefs are going so much to stop Saquon, and it's not like we're going out there saying, oh, they're going to limit him, because you've mentioned this so many different times. You take a look at the Buffalo Bills game when James Cook is running for a really good yards per carry. Same thing for Joe Mixon. So the Chiefs have been susceptible in the ground game, but I'm kind of agreeing with you there because there's so many areas of that pass defense that kind of aligns for Jalen or some strengths of that, because we've seen if Jalen is blitzed and they run man coverage, or I guess, variations of that, like Jalen's been able to pick apart. And so, people can think for sure back to Super Bowl 57, what he did naturally, and moving on, to Jalen wanting to prove a point. And I love the doubters because Jalen flat out said, he's like, it's no secret that it's extra motivation. Like whenever I hear that, he said that earlier this week. So you know what, go out there and prove it. But when you got 3 of those type of pass catchers in a Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown, I'm right there with you. As we move to potential areas for like weakness, areas to exploit, things like that, I was going to bring up, because you mentioned Remigio and the special teams unit. That is one area that is very much a sore spot for lots of Eagles fans for a number of reasons, especially in the Super Bowl. You got to take care of business there. I mean, the dude did have the 60-something yard return against the Texans, the kick return, and then also a really long return against Buffalo for a punt return. I hope and I feel like this unit, they've been really good with their gunners, but it's certainly an area of focus that I think a lot of times we go into a game of this magnitude and it's like, hey, offense and defense, and you kind of can overlook it because of the scars. As fans, I know that we are not. It's just hopefully, hey, Michael Clay, it's good that you have this experience. It's good that you had that experience to look back on, but it needs to be a heightened focus, because if there's one area when we talk about, oh, hey, the Eagles on paper, they have a whole lot more advantages than the Chiefs do. we've seen special teams is that great equalizer. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. But Jake Elliott, is that one of the areas of weakness? Where does that fall? And I guess where's the confidence level with Jake Elliott going into this game?
I mean, it's literally like you're looking at my computer screen. He's the number
Okay.
one area of weakness. And I know Jake Elliott's played better in domes. I think he's only missed one kick in domes this season. It happened to be in New Orleans, but it also was a 60-yard field goal. So, I mean, hopefully they're really taking those at relatively high clip, and maybe not at all. I would rather, in that, it feels like in that situation, I think Nick Sirianni might be a little bit more aggressive and just be going for it, especially against the Chiefs, where you want to limit as many extra possessions that they would have as possible. So I think last time around, I think they were a little bit too conservative in the Super Bowl, whereas this time, I think he might be a little bit more aggressive. I think you might see him, especially towards midfield, go for it in those situations like he has in the playoffs thus far. And then, so yeah, Jake Elliott, I mean, how could you not be concerned about him? I know he's kicked a little bit better here and there, but it still seems like you mentioned, since the bye week, it seems like the Eagles' defense and offense have kind of been steady as far as like their performance and what to expect. And that, like the I guess it's even not even just the field goals, even the kickoffs. Like it seems like sometimes there was that Washington the loss to Washington where
Mm-hmm.
they were starting like consistently at like the 35 or 40-yard line, like maybe even midfield. Like you just can't let that happen, especially against a team like the Chiefs where they're able to be so efficient on offense and move the ball so well. So you don't want to like cut any corners or have any inconsistencies. And it seems like special teams as a whole has kind of been shaky, and then obviously Jake Elliott in particular with his struggles, even with extra points. You told me about the nightmare that you had
I
last
did.
night, so I don't know if you want to elaborate on
Sure,
that.
let's do it. Yeah, you just outed me there anyway. But no, for people, I don't mind sharing this. But I literally woke up. And I don't usually. Look, I'll just be honest. I think about Eagles football all the time, but I don't usually dream Eagles football. Like I don't have dreams or nightmares. This was an absolute nightmare, and I texted you because whenever I got up this morning, I was like, "You're not gonna believe." Like I had a terrible, terrible nightmare. I woke up in a sweat because and it didn't end. So this is the part where I'm like, well, maybe it was okay. But I woke up at the point where we had scored a touchdown to go up 26-20 with 3 minutes left, and Jake Elliott missed the extra point. And then I woke up because it was like, oh my gosh, we're only up by 6. And we remember what happened in the Rams game. We did win it, so maybe it's okay. But yeah, I'm absolutely, you could tell even in the subconscious, myself was going like, oh, Jake Elliott, please do not cost us this thing, even for something like an extra point. So I'm, yes, right there.
Listen, I think maybe he'll turn back the clocks a little bit. We'll see big game Jake Elliott make a couple big field goals. Who knows? But going on to my next area of potential weakness, I think you have to talk about Mekhi Becton. I know he's played really well for the most part this season, but I think honestly the whole interior of the offensive line has kind of struggled a little bit in pass protection throughout the postseason. We saw the Rams have their way a little bit with like these twists and stunts, and now you have Spags' defense where they're going to bring up a lot of unique looks where Cam Jurgens is going to be super important in this game as far as like identifying who is going to be pressure, who's going to drop back, because Spags does all sorts of funky stuff where you might see Chris Jones drop back in coverage, or you might see another defensive tackle or defensive end drop back in coverage, and the slot corner is going to come on a blitz, or both safeties are going to come and both defensive tackles are going to drop out. Like they really need to be prepared for all this stuff, and I think Mekhi Becton's inexperience on the inside might be something that they can try to look to exploit and expose throughout the game. So that's going to be on Cam Jurgens and the other guys to kind of try and keep him in the game and make sure he knows what's going to happen. And lastly, Jalen Hurts versus pressure, because Spags is going to bring those zero blitz looks. He did it a bunch the last couple of times they played, and it's just something that he leans on. It's going to happen. Maybe it'll only be a handful of times, but the Eagles need to have a plan for that in place, because I know Jalen Hurts has performed well overall against the blitz and against pressure this season, but he does take a lot of sacks in those situations, and you really don't want that happening. So I hope with the extra week of preparation, they've kind of worked all that like through as far as him and Kellen Moore having a plan against the blitz, having these easy, quick throws that he can make. If it's Devontae Smith across the middle of the field, Dallas Goedert, whatever, they need to have these answers ready. And that's the only thing that gets me a little scared, because if they do those blitzes early and they like, kind of messes with Jalen Hurts, like internal clock, and he's holding the ball too long, that's where he's seen them the pass game get out of sorts. So I think if he could play a clean game, that'll go a long way for the Eagles.
Yeah, that's the one area of the combo of Mekhi Becton and Jalen Hurts, because Jalen's taken over a lot more of the protection, right? Because like Jason Kelsey had done it previously, and Jalen's doing it this year. It's one thing for the blitz, and Jalen's been a whole lot better against the blitz this year than he was last year. Kellen Moore, credit for that reason on that. But as you talk with it, I mean, everyone knows. You think back to the Super Bowl, you think back to even just these playoff games, the AFC Championship game. Like Spags sends very exotic pressures in situations where you don't necessarily expect it. And I think it's Jimmy Kempski. Shout out to him. I think he was the one who had put out the stat. But as far as Trent McDuffie in particular, he's only had like 4 games, I believe, in his career where he's been sent on a blitz 4 or more times. But 3 of those have been, at least 2 or 3 of those have been against the Eagles. So Spags especially realizes it with Jalen, trying to negate the mobile quarterback game, also what they're trying to do, running the football and sending those exotic pressures. So that would be an area that I'm also keeping an eye on, like you mentioned with Becton, with the line, if there's some confusion or Jalen sliding to the wrong side because there's actually a corner blitz that's coming or a slot that's coming on that side. So you saw it against the Niners. Brock Purdy late in the game pressured because of that, did not recognize that McDuffie was coming. Incompletion, have to kick a field goal instead of keeping a drive alive. We'll see. I mean, Jalen's definitely seen it by now, I'm sure, because of all the tape and film, but it's one thing to watch it there versus doing it in a game. So that would be the one thing. I'm also just, I'm not, I wouldn't say like I'm scared or like even severely concerned, but it is something I'm going to keep an eye on because of what Spags likes to do and how he brings that pressure.
Yeah, it's just there are going to be opportunities though for big plays, like if Spags does that too, because there are times where I forget who it was, but somebody tweeted out a video where it was like a defensive tackle matched up with a running back on like a swing route, and it was a long touchdown. So if the Eagles are ready for it, it can amount to big explosive plays for the Eagles as well. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see that chess match because it seems like Spags is the best at dialing up these unique looks at the best time and like almost like the highest leverage moments too, like where you wouldn't really expect. You know how like Vic Fangio kind of those 2-minute drills where it seems like he plays a little bit too conservative. He doesn't want to give up anything. Spags is kind of the complete opposite, where where you think a defense would be playing like prevent coverage with like everybody deep, he's sending like 7 or 8 guys to the quarter. It's just like insane. Like you would never expect it. So the Eagles have to be prepared for this at any moment, whether it's the very first play of the game or the last play of the game. Like Spags gets really, really crazy with these looks, and they have to be ready for it.
Hopefully they take advantage. And if they do, then, like you said, it could be a Saquon Barkley matched up against Chris Jones or, some other lineman, and all of a sudden he's got a pass for, 50 yards or 53 yards specifically and a touchdown. But that would be good. We still naturally, we make these predictions. It's been a blast all year long. We've had a really hot streak for a while, and we can maybe cooled off a bit, but it's the big game here, so we got to have kind of go through the analysis and have the best plays for people to go with. We usually go with the first time touchdown scorer, so we'll stick with that. Have you thought about that? Like, who do you go with in the big game here? Who scores first touchdown score?
So I was thinking, I feel like all season long I've kind of been going with like a little bit of the like obscure names that you wouldn't really expect, or like the player from the opposing team. But I'm gonna go super chalky this time around, kind of go against what I normally do, but based on their 2 postseason games that they've played already, James Cook and Joe Mixon each scored the first touchdown for their respective teams. It wasn't the first touchdown in the game necessarily, but they both scored the first touchdown for their teams. So I'm going to go Saquon Barkley as the first touchdown scorer in this game. I think the Eagles might get a stop. The Chiefs might get the ball to start. Eagles get a huge stop, and then I don't know if it's going to be – hopefully it'll be a 70-yard touchdown run, but either way, I think Saquon Barkley is going to get the first touchdown of the game.
Okay. I like it. We want to see that. Everybody wants to see Saquon. I'm going to say I was considering Saquon. I think I took him last week, but I'm going to go with Jalen. I think that it's going to be you could just get the brotherly shove, but I feel like it might be just something where we saw back in Kansas City last year where they got some of the quarterback runs working and an opportunity there. So I'm going to say Jalen Hurts, a little run game action. Try to key on Saquon a little bit too much leads to an opening for Jalen. So we'll go with that. Both Eagles, sometimes we take the opposing team, but there you go. You got to like that.
What's one more thing? My initial pick, it was going to be Noah Gray for the Chiefs, their second tight end. So that was like, but I was like, that's obscure. That's a little too crazy. Maybe I was trying to do a little too much, but yeah, Saquon is going to go who I finalized my pick with.
Okay. Anthony throws that out there. A little subtlety, though. So if someone wants to be crazy and take a little outlier, just sprinkle something on that one. But all right. Score predictions, though, as we always do. What do you got for official score? I think it was like 49.5 was the total. And it opened up as the Chiefs 1.5 point favorites. Depending on which book you're at, it got all the way to even. Like it's a pick 'em. A couple still have it as one, but I saw a couple books that had it as even. So what are you going with? Score predictions here for the game.
So it sounds crazy to even like predict this because, like I said, I thought my confidence would be a little bit lower at this point, a little bit more scared of the Chiefs. But I have the Eagles winning. I have them winning by 2 possessions. I feel like I've kind of predicted this for a bunch of the playoff games so far, and it's worked out relatively well. I have the Eagles winning 28-17 over the Chiefs to win Super Bowl.
Let's go. I really, really hope that's what. I mean, I really do because we don't need one of those nail biters. That's not what I want. I'm a little bit closer. I will say that in my prediction here, it's not as close as it sounds. So I'm going to say 27-20, but I'm going to say it's 27-13. Chiefs score late. They try to get an onside kick. They can't. Eagles win 27-20. So it's a one possession ultimately, but not even necessarily feeling that close. So
that's like I saw Jimmy Kempski's. I know you talked about him before, but his prediction was kind of similar. He had, I think, Eagles 28, Chiefs 25 or something like that. And he was like, the Chiefs get like a late touchdown and 2-point conversion to make it look a lot closer than it actually is. So you're kind of on the same. Jimmy's been on a roll this season, so that's a good person.
He
to be
has.
on the same wavelength with.
Well, hey, I think he was like a 71% hit rate this year for the spread picks, which is just nuts. People should have been taking him all season. Yeah. But yeah, I see a lot. I mean, again, lots of comments here. You get 31-20, 31-17, 34-17, 9.5. Take this, I guess, the alt spread. I don't know if they offer an alt spread. That's going to pay out like crazy. 34-21, 38-23. Lots of confidence. I want it and need it to be the too big to rig. That's been the comment. But like, win big, capitalize, take advantage. Don't make this thing a doubt. Don't keep it close. Everyone knows what Patrick Mahomes is late in the games, whether you want to buy into the ref narrative or not, but just close games in general of what it can be. So make it happen. We're almost there. We are almost there. D'Angelo with the 5 says how. Oh, well, we already kind of touched on this, so I'm just getting to some of these super chats. Was asking how confident do we feel about Jake Elliott? I haven't been hearing a lot about him from media outlets. We kind of went over it, but confidence level, scale of 1 to 10. 10, he's going to for sure make the kick. 1 is he's slicing it like my drive to the fairway, way right. I mean, I'm probably at like a, 6. I think I can work up to a 6.
Listen, it's Jake Elliott in a dome, so I'll boost him up a little bit.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll go 8. I'll go 8 out of 10. I'll give him that. I'll give him a little bit more than.
All right. Yes, they need that optimism. I'm optimistic about a lot of other areas of the team, but that's one that I'm just kind of like, oh boy, if we need to. My nightmare is not helping with this though too. So I've got some emotional therapy that I need to go through before answering that question. The 101 with 5, I've had so there's another nightmare. I've had nightmares about losing before every playoff game, and we ended up winning those. So they would say it was good luck that I'm having the nightmare.
There you go.
Okay.
I'll
gladly forfeit sleep if it means that we win the Super. If I have to have nightmares about the Eagles losing for 2 more nights, I will gladly do that. If someone can guarantee me, though, that means they win the Super Bowl. I mean, I know that the level of absurdity to like non-sports fans or definitely like non-NFL fans, it sounds like, just completely ludicrous, but I know that the vast majority of us are the exact same, but like, tell me what I need to, I'll suffer through whatever, I'll go get whatever, like to cook the meal, whatever meal we need to have beforehand, whatever I need to do, just let me know and we can make this thing work. Cause that's what we're about. It's whatever works. It's not crazy.
That's what being a fan is, right? You're a fanatic. It's short for fanatic. That's what it is.
That's literally what it is. Chris with a 5, appreciate that. Chris says, gun to your head, who would you guess could end up in the Hall of Fame on current Eagles roster and the Chiefs roster? So I guess we'll do one name for each. Also says, I'm still drinking, but his new score prediction is 38-23. So a little bit less. The 45-27s come down to a 38-23. It's still pretty solid for a win, but I don't know. Do you have a name off the top of your head? Current Eagles roster. I could very quickly just say Jalen Carter. Like, that's easy for me. Who knows? Because it's really difficult. You don't know what happens throughout his career. But Eagles one, I would say Jalen Carter. I should think for the Chiefs. Do you have an Eagles player?
I feel like the most obvious is Lane Johnson, right? Because like all the All Pros and the Pro Bowls, I think
Yeah,
I'd probably go with him. I think that's maybe the easy way out. But for the Chiefs, I feel like there's two obvious answers with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, because they might be considered, when it's all said and done, the best that they ever do it at their positions, right? So I feel like they're already kind of locks. So,
for sure.
but
Yeah.
maybe there's other
I
people.
took it. Maybe I took it as like, first couple years in the league, but
Oh, okay.
Chris didn't
Here we go.
stipulate here. So I
got a good one for you, and
Okay.
you're gonna love this.
Come on,
Nolan Smith.
let's go. Come on.
I mean,
Heck yeah.
look at the way he's playing to end this season. You could only imagine going into future years if he becomes like a double-digit sack guy every year.
That's true. That's true. Hey, come on. Yeah, I'm a huge fan, but I just I had to say Jalen Carter because like dude's already at the All Pro level,
Yeah.
and it just feels like it's one of those. So I try to keep it as realistic as possible. You have both as Hall of Famers. Who doesn't love that? Chiefs. I'm trying to think who would be there. Like there's younger players. I don't know. It might be like a little bit of an outlier or a stretch, but like, did you say McDuffie as a possibility? Like if he plays really well at that level for a long time. Oh wait, you know what? Creed
That
Humphrey.
one. That's exactly who
Yeah,
I
I
was
was
thinking.
gonna say. I was
He
thinking
already
about
has
it. And
two
I'm
All
like,
Pros
yeah.
in his first like 3
He's-
seasons. Yeah,
That is the biggest lock for me. If we're taking younger player, not
good.
played too long. Yeah.
He's doing good for three. Well, no, this is his 4th season. He's already three-time Pro Bowler and 1-time first team All Pro, 1-time second team All Pro, and obviously a 2-time Super Bowl champion. So
God.
he's doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. A start for your career. You got. I mean, a lot of people say only up from here, but you're kind of already there. You just stay at where you're at, basically.
Early, yeah.
So yeah. JF with the $2. Appreciate that. Says Barkley birthday touchdown, and we put up 30 points minimum. Or I guess asking if we do that, do we win? He left a question mark there. Yes, if Saquon has a touchdown, we put up 30 points. There's not a world. I know that you could go back to the 38-35. In my mind, there is not a world where we score 30 points and do not win this game. And I'm not saying that it's like, I know people, don't jinx it, all this other stuff. Like I'm not believing in that. Like this defense is solid. So if you get it's a race to 30, I don't think it even takes that much. But if you get to 30 points, I just cannot envision that we're going, oh well, hey, you have another 38-35 game. I don't know.
It's kind of crazy to sit back and think about it. I know like the national media doesn't really dive into the stuff as much as we do as far as like particular teams or as much as a lot of people do. But if you just looked at the coverage of this game, I feel like you would think the Chiefs were the team that had the number 1 defense based on how everybody talks about Spags and Chris Jones and how well they've played, Trent McDuffie. Like, meanwhile, the Eagles are by far the best defense in the league in multiple stats, multiple aspects, advanced metrics, like whatever you want to look at. Like, they've been dominant since that bye week, and they really haven't like kind of declined at all since then. They've only gotten better. And when you look at what the Chiefs like to do as far as like they throw the most passes behind the line of scrimmage, like things like that, whereas that's what the Eagles excel at defending. Like, it just seems like so much stuff plays in the Eagles' favor, and they're almost kind of been disrespected by a lot of people. And I feel like they're going to use this as fuel, whereas a couple of years ago when they made it, it was almost like they were kind of happy to be there. Like nobody really expected it, like maybe necessarily that year. And now it's more of like a revenge thing. Like they know that they have a lot more to prove. And like, it's just like, I don't know. I think it's going to be such a cool story in the end.
Right there with you. Yep. I think I hope, as we were talking about earlier, I hope everyone hopes that it ends up being this blowout, leave no doubt, like just make a statement win. That'd be fantastic. If it's close, then naturally there's more of the nerves and anxiety and what's going to happen with Patrick Mahomes. But even in that moment, it's still, you just look at this defense and it feels completely different than 2022, as we were talking about, because the field for sure. I mean, it's going to be completely different, but you also have a unit that has grown so much more. And it's a great point that you bring up about the national media, because I've seen it in different talk shows and also articles that have been written about the team of saying like, well, hey, Baker Mayfield did this against Philly in week 4. And everyone's going, oh, so Patrick Mahomes, who has, quick release, screen passes, like get the ball out quick, all this other stuff, he'll be able to have that quick time to throw. It'll probably be quick throws. I don't doubt that. But like we all saw that the team was not in a good way before the bye week, and then they came out and it was like something changed dramatically, and then they kept building on that. They're not the same defense at all, but people that don't watch them as closely, they look at that and say, well, there's the recipe for success. Like that's all the Chiefs have to do, and if the Bucs could do it and they blew them out, then look out, this is going to be Kansas City. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. This team tackles so much better. They cover so much better. They understood against a team who's going to get rid of the ball faster that sometimes you got to play press coverage. So, I think that we might see more of that, force Mahomes to hold on to the ball a little bit more. The analytics say, I guess for a lot of quarterbacks, but certainly Mahomes, the longer that you make him hold the football, the drastically worse that he becomes, more sacks, more turnovers. So I think it's a night and day difference, but a lot of times people that, to your point, they don't watch frequently. They just go and pick and choose and say, well, there's an example right there, but it's a completely different team than it was earlier in the year.
Yeah, and I think just like the fact that I don't think people realize how good Cooper DeJean is. I was asked on another show about like, not necessarily like an X factor, but a player that might get more recognition after this game, or people might realize like just how good they are. And I think it's going to be Cooper DeJean. Even Nolan Smith can probably be in that category as well. I think these guys I know they're younger players, but they're not getting the recognition that I think they deserve based on how they played basically the whole season, especially the second half and the postseason. Like they're really good players and top players at their position already. And I think after this game, they're going to be highlighted even more because I think they're going to have a huge impact, especially Cooper DeJean, with how much the Chiefs like to attack these screen passes and things like that. And we've seen Cooper DeJean make the plays in those scenarios over and over again. So I think those two players especially are going to have huge performances for the Eagles.
Yep. Love it. Lots of agreements on that too. Anytime Cooper DeJean gets brought up, gets a lot of people hyped, understandably so. I mean, who doesn't love Cooper DeJean? Which, by the way, I mentioned this on a couple different shows. It'll be on tomorrow's as well, and I'll just say it here for people on the stream before we wrap. I'm going to be giving away a signed Saquon Barkley helmet and a signed Cooper DeJean helmet if the Eagles win. So stay tuned for that. Again, we're just trying to put as much positive energy out there as we possibly can for the Super Bowl. But it's their birthday. I figure there's nothing better. The birthday boys get the dub, get the championship, the Lombardi Trophy, opportunity to win a signed helmet from those guys. I mean, not too much better than that. So just stay tuned. But that'll be happening if we get the win.
As a father, did you see the voicemail video of that Saquon's? Oh my God!
Yes.
I melted after watching that. I didn't actually cry, but I was like, oh my, that's adorable. Like I can't.
Yeah. It's so good.
There's too much meaning for this game. Like, especially we haven't even discussed it. The whole Brandon Graham aspect of it. Like, you think about how the Ravens went on that ride when like Ray Lewis said it was going to be like his last game or whatever, and then they won the Super Bowl and like he rode off into the sunset. Like, it felt like we thought we were going to get that moment last time with Jason Kelce, but it ended up not being his last season anyway. But maybe if they would have won, it would have. But Nick Sirianni already said that he might do that same thing where like the night before the game, the final meeting, he's going to have just the players kind of stand up in front of the team and give their speech. So the fact that Brandon Graham's going to go up there, who's already a beloved guy from the team, like and basically on both sides of the ball, like he's going to go up there. I'm sure he's going to cry. I'm sure he's going to say like, listen, this is my last game. Like, like he's already said it publicly, but I think there's just so much more fuel to the fire for the Eagles this time around to get the job done.
That's I'm glad you brought that up because we didn't even mention BG, but the fact that it is his last game and you have the extra motivation around that is, if he had been there, you still would be hyped for it, but to have him suited up and the opportunity to go back out there and finish it the right way, even if it's a half a percentage, I mean, however you grade these things, but like a half a percentage of extra motivation, effort, whatever, you take it. And certainly to be able to do that, I mean, yeah, I've actually gone back multiple times because the similarities of Ray Lewis and the triceps injury and all that. But the way that some of these endings is like they are people, say, oh, it's scripted. It's just, but like a storybook ending like that, it's much better than, hey, the villain Chiefs got their three-peat. Congratulations. They can officially pay Pat Riley and go ahead and make all that memorabilia. But
I still can't believe that came out. That's got to be another thing. They're not going to say anything now, but that's got to be
no. But if it happens,
Oh,
then the Eagles players will have posts about it because,
yes.
I mean, Lane Johnson, whatever Jared Verse said that what he did, he
Yes,
comes back
yes.
out and says the best verse, EAGLES, best fans of the world. It's like he has the Eagles fans back.
Yes.
They all see it. They say, oh, no, I'm head down, focused, and all this stuff. They see it. And so I just love the fact that it's like you keep in the back of your mind, it's a little extra motivation. And then when it takes place, yeah, we'll for sure see that. So we all want it. We're almost there. Seth with a 5 before we wrap up here. Appreciate that. Seth says February 9th is, my birthday too. So I need a helmet from one of my birthday buddies. Let's go. Seth, happy early birthday. Hopefully get the Lombardi trophy for you and best of luck on the giveaway there. No playing favorites, but hopefully you got the birthday odds in favor. But whatever it takes to win. There you go.
Just one more thing I wanted to note before we wrap up is just the thing that came out earlier today about the whole Nakobe Dean situation, how he was actually present at practice and watching, and like how Nick Sirianni said like he needs the team as much as the team needs him. I think like we talk about what does Nick Sirianni do and things like that. I think he's so good at like getting messages across and just keeping the locker room connected. And he said together, like that was one of his messages and his main words that he used after the whole AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts kind of drama that happened or whatever, like tough together, like detailed, whatever. Like the fact that he's able to kind of send these messages, and now we might see Nakobe Dean like walk out of the tunnel with the team instead of Nolan Smith carrying his jersey. Like these things mean something, and I think it's going to give them that little extra boost that they need at the end of the day for the game.
Love that. I mean, I agree. Agree with you too. I mean, yeah, it's the small things, but for emotions, for a squad that's rally around each other, and we've heard all the stories of like how close this group is. Not that 2022 wasn't, not that 2017 wasn't, but just how they've grown over the season and they've gotten closer. Sirianni deserves a ton of praise for sure. Criticized him quite a bit, but sometimes
Don't worry.
on
Don't
both
worry.
sides. But yeah, it's like, but he's shown that maturity, he's shown the growth, and the players have his back. So whether it was a disagreement, some criticism, it never got to the point of hatred or anything like that. I know some people commented those, but not to the extreme like that. But at the same time, like no problem admitting and being like, look, that he is the right guy, was the right guy, was able to rally the squad. They were able to get behind it. Jalen and him, much better relationship, speaking about very positively in press conferences. There was some weird, just strange vibes and all that other stuff. But ultimately they've grown closer together and the team rallies behind that. So whatever it takes, I mean, that's his role. And he's definitely built the chemistry that way. So we're all for that.
Yeah, it seems like. Sorry, just one more thing. I know I keep going on. I think I texted it to you as well, but Jalen Hurts' like breakdown speech after they won the NFC Championship game. I have a theory in my mind where I think he started crying, and they cut it off because it sounded like he was starting to like tear up and get a little emotional, and then all of a sudden there was like a cut in the video, and then it continued. So the fact that Jalen Hurts is even showing like emotion like that, I think Nick Sirianni's done like a masterful job of being like the puppeteer in the background, kind of pulling all the right strings to get these guys to really play for each other.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you either texted me or sent me a message or something there, but I you do wonder because there's a couple different videos that they cut it out early, and you're like, man, I don't. You just kind of like, that's odd. They were saying something that was meaningful, and then they go to something else. But yeah, maybe that's what it was. With little extra emotion means something to the guys, obviously, and so they'll have I think it's tomorrow night. They'll have the team meeting officially, and I think John Clark, if I'm not mistaken, was the first one saying that the players would officially be giving, like getting up in front of the team, talking, speaking because of how it did last time. So we'll see. Get them fired up, rally, maybe Nakobe even, get a little word, little speech for the guys. Who knows? Eric with a 10, appreciate that, says, let's go Paloma and Soliana. Go Birds. Okay, we appreciate it. Go Birds. We're almost there. Gave the score predictions. Everybody else, first touchdown score, let us know. Next video, going to have a special deal with that. So you guys are the best. I showed the plaque a second ago, but that thing was crazy. I got to figure out a spot to put it, but
right there, right behind the next to the eagle on the other wall.
Yeah,
behind where your microphone is. I feel like that's a good spot.
It's really small. It's much smaller than I thought it would be, but I think I can. I can fit it. Oh, that direction. That side.
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go. Perfect.
Yeah. So
Get some light, some
we
nice.
got the
They
first
probably make,
hardware.
they might
This
make
is-
frames for that or something.
I'm
I don't
sure
know.
they do.
Sure.
Surely I could find something, but this is the omen. This is what I'm taking this to be, right? Get this show up. It was actually, believe it or not, it was not supposed to show up until Tuesday, and then it showed up. So the fact that it showed up, I'm like, come on, it's got to be positive. It's got to be a
Now
good
you have
sign.
to get it. Now you have to hang it up before Sunday. That's your next.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I will definitely then. If that's what it takes. So
Listen, your wife is super talented. Have her make some artsy thing to go around it. Boom.
she definitely can. Yes.
I believe in her.
Question
She's
of
the best.
the timing, but she will. She will. All right. Well, we appreciate it, Anthony, as always, jumping on for super, super long. So hopefully I didn't get you in trouble.
No, you're good. Kids stayed awake. I mean, the kids stayed asleep. So
Okay, good. I was gonna say yes. Make sure to follow Anthony if you're not. Again, like I mentioned, at Debona NFL. I've got a link to his profile there, along with the articles and everything else. So obviously, hit that up. Stay up to date and in tune with the birds. Just a couple more days, almost there.
Can't wait. Hopefully, we're having a very happy conversation
next
time we're talking.
Please. Okay, we'll get there. But appreciate you guys as always. Go Birds.